We present My Word. A panel game devised by Tony Schrein and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is John Julius Norwich.
Thank you, Dilys Powell, Antonia, Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden. And we go straight into the first round, which, as usual, probes their vocabulary. Frank, for 2 marks. What is the meaning of the word allopath?
Allopath, A-L-L-O.
A-L-L-O-P-A-T-H.
Well, sir, path means somebody suffering from. For instance, psychopath means somebody who's seen Hitchcock's film 19 times on television and is screaming when he sees Psycho again. Well, allopath is somebody allergic to British films of the 40s. Which consists of policemen saying,
It's the opposite to a homeopath. A homeopath cures you by a tiny little dose of your disease or whatever it is that you're suffering from. An allopath cures it by inducing another action of a completely different kind.
What fun.
They love it. I'm afraid I can't give you any marks for that one. However, better luck next time. Antonia, can you please tell me the meaning of the word supererogation?
It sounds rather like the beginning of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which I can't remember what that means, if it meant anything. Anyway, it's obviously to do with asking, rogation. Super means doing it an inordinate amount. Somebody...
is it always... I've only ever heard it in the phrase, a work of supererogation, and I've taken it always by the context to mean sort of gilding the lily, doing a little bit too much, something that's unnecessary, and laying it on a bit.
Yes, I think that's basically right. Originally, actually, the real basic meaning of it is theological. It means performing extra good works that you don't really need to do because you'll get to heaven without. Sort of laying on an unnecessary credit balance with the recording angel just in case things go wrong on Judgment Day. But from that, obviously, it comes to mean a work of supererogation is something that you don't really need to do, but you just sort of do a little bit extra in case of accidents. I'll give you 1 mark for that. Dilys, tell me, please, what is a Nepenthe?
I think it's a drink.
Yes?
It's what I need now, a very soothing drink. It could be a sleeping draught.
It could, and indeed it is. Say no more. Go no further. A sleeping draught is exactly that. Denis, would you like to blunge? And if so, could you tell me what it is precisely that you would like to do?
It's one of the most sensuous experiences, and it's possible to feel. It's plunging naked into a bowl of blancmange.
Oh dear. The agony of this job is not being able to give the marks one would like to give. I'll give you a half.
There's absolutely no clue in the word at all. I've never heard it. What does it mean?
It's one of those fine, basic old Anglo-Saxon words.
Not one of those fine basic words. No, it's one of the other basic old. You know.
In this particular case, in fact, it comes from pottery making. If you were a potter, you would know exactly what to blunge means. It means to mix together clay and other ingredients with water by revolving machinery. Well, next. Before we go, then, into round 2, here are the quotations you were given for the last round. Frank, your quotation is, "Oh, for the touch of a vanished hand," by Tennyson, as I need hardly remind you. Break, break, break. Denis, yours is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And now we go on to a round called Odd Man Out. For 2 marks, Frank, can you please identify from the following groups the word that does not, by its meaning or its nature, conform to the others? Now, Mars, Odin, Julius Caesar, and Augustus Caesar.
Mars, Odin, and Julius Caesar are all concerned with war and the pursuit of war. And Augustus is concerned with development of the arts.
No. Augustus fought hard. He was very concerned with war as well. Much more so, I should have thought, even than Odin.
Augustan age. Odin's the odd man out, because my friend says so.
I'll give you 1 mark for Odin. No, the answer is that the other 3 all gave their names to months. March, July, and August. Odin gave his name to Wednesday, but Wednesday is not a month, as you know, and Odin is therefore the odd man out. Antonia, Ronald, Colman, Che Guevara, Imperial, Toothbrush, and Handlebar.
Well, the clue is clearly a moustache. Isn't an imperial whiskers?
It's beard.
An imperial is not whiskers, no.
It's sort of beard. I mean, is that the odd one out?
You're perfectly right. Imperial is the odd one out. It's not whiskers, but it is indeed a shorter beard. It's a little, almost a goatee beard, only a little bit longer than that. It's what the Emperor Napoleon III used to wear, a nice little sort of trimmed, pointed job. Dilys, butcher, electric, navy, sage, and Oxford.
Well, now.
Are they all blues except butcher?
Are they? Butcher's blue.
Is it?
But there's butcher blue,
Where are the
electric
navies?
blue,
Electric-
navy blue.
Sage.
There's no sage blue. Sage is the one out.
Oxford blue.
Oxford blue. They're all blues except sage.
All blues except sage, which
Sage,
is green.
Which is green.
Well done, 2 marks. Denis, James Joyce, grass snakes, Waterford crystal, and a bottle of Guinness.
Waterford crystal and a bottle of Guinness. Ah. Yeah. James Joyce, Waterford, and Guinness all have associations with Ireland. Grass snakes have associations with Ireland, but in a kind of negative way. Weren't they driven out of Ireland, all the snakes?
They were indeed. They were driven out of Ireland by...
St. Patrick, wasn't it?
Perfectly right. Now, a round of literary addition. For 2 marks, Frank, please, supply the missing numerals from the following phrases, and then add them together and tell me the total. Days thou shalt labour.
6.
The orange pips of Sherlock Holmes. And grey geese in a green field grazing.
3. But don't you sit there? I've never heard of Sherlock Holmes and Omnibus. I'll be perfectly frank with you, John Julius.
You haven't.
I could do nothing less.
All right. Well, you were able to tell me the number of days I should labour, and you were able to tell me the number of grey geese.
It is 3, isn't it?
It is indeed 3.
Ah.
The only one you couldn't do was the orange pips.
Could I have a guess?
Yes?
1,422,809.
Very, very close. The answer's 5. And the total was 14, but I'll give you 1 mark. Antonia. Miles meandering with a mazy motion.
5.
Lords a leaping.
7.
Start it from the top.
Yeah.
Go
And a
through
partridge, that's the bottom actually, a partridge and a badger.
I'll give you the third one.
Yeah.
The Cornishmen who'll know the reason why.
20,000. 20,000 plus 5, which I make... Oh, my God, I was going to say 25,000, but forget it.
You're not doing your housekeeping now.
No. I think in spite of this cooperation on my right, I think it's 7 lords are leaping.
Well, I'm afraid it's not. If you think of all the leaping lords you know, you will in fact, I think, find that they number 12.
Oh, dear, and I could hear people murmuring
5 miles meandering with amazing motion, 12 lords leaping, 20,000 Cornishmen, total 20,017. Still, you were nearly right. I'll give you 1 mark.
Thank you very much.
Dilys. Blackbirds baked in a pie, sheets in the wind, and Frenchmen who can't be wrong.
Blackbirds, 4 and 20 blackbirds.
Yes.
4 and 20. 24 blackbirds. Sheets. Is it 3 sheets in the wind? Yeah, you're a naval type, you know.
Yes, 3 sheets in the wind.
3 sheets. Is it? 3 sheets. And
3 sheets, perfectly right. And the Frenchman who can't be wrong.
Dennis whispered 40 million, and
Did he?
He wouldn't fool me.
You sure he wouldn't lie to us? No.
I did it was 40.
40 million?
Yes.
Well, that's 40 million.
Good, 40 million.
You're going nap on 40 million, are you? 40 million is what you're going nap on.
Well,
again, you're only 10 million out. It's 50 million. 24 blackbirds, 3 sheets in the wind, 50 million Frenchmen, total 50 million and 27.
Well.
Dennis.
Right.
Men on the dead man's chest.
15 men.
The Tailors of Dorothy Sayers.
9 tailors.
And the mileage from Wibbleton to Wobbleton.
X. It's 24 plus X. I only know it in kilometres or kilometres or whatever you're supposed to say.
Well,
do you know the Wibbleton to Wobbleton?
Say it in kilometres, and if it works out more or less right, you can have the mark.
I haven't the faintest. I've never heard I don't know the illusion at all.
Well, the illusion, in fact, it's believe it or not, it's a nursery rhyme. You'll find it in the Oxford Book of English Nursery Rhymes. It goes, it's 15 miles from Wibbleton to Wobbleton. From Wibbleton to Wobbleton is 15 miles. It's 15 miles from Wibbleton to Wobbleton. From Wibbleton to Wobbleton is 15 miles. Total 39. 1 mark. A round now entitled What Comes Before. This is to test your Shakespearean knowledge. Frank, now for 2 marks, what line of Shakespeare comes before this line? When the moon shone, we did not see the candle.
You went all serious when you said that.
I have to be when I recite Shakespeare.
When the moon shone.
We did not see the candle.
It's going to run through Shakespeare in my mind. What's the significant bit?
At a given moment, somebody says, I'm not going to tell you who, because that might give the game away a little bit too much, says how far that little candle throws his beams.
Ah, yes. It's like a good deed in a naughty world.
Well done. It's from
what the actors call the Merchant.
It's from the Merchant. You're perfectly right. It's from the Merchant. And I had to give you a bit of a hint, but I'll give you 1.5 marks. Antonia. The line that comes immediately before, deny thy father and refuse thy name.
Of course, it's Romeo and Juliet.
Of course.
I think it goes something like this. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
Perfectly right. 2 extremely well-deserved marks. Dilys. The line that comes before, this bad begins and worse remains behind.
It's Macbeth.
It's not.
It's not Macbeth. Oh, well.
What? Can I have it again, please, sir?
Yes.
Bad begins.
This bad begins and worse remains behind.
Bad begins and worse.
Something to do with...
I give you another clue. It's from Hamlet.
Oh.
Do you know?
No, of course not.
No, you don't know, I'll tell you.
No, I don't.
I'll tell you.
I don't know.
You'll kick yourself when you hear it.
Shall we?
I must be cruel only to be kind. Denis. That all with one consent praise newborn gauds. G-A-W-D-S, meaning that which is gaudy.
I don't think I'll waste your time with this one.
No, this one doesn't.
Yeah?
This one doesn't rhyme.
No, and it doesn't.
Troilus and Cressida.
Troilus and Cressida is I'm not at my
Greek
best
to you.
in.
You don't know it. It's one touch of nature makes the whole world
Kin.
kin. Well done. Yeah. But I'm afraid I can't give you any marks. Now then, a round of double definitions. For 2 marks, what single word can be defined by the 2 following different definitions? Frank, querulously to criticize, and a jumbo-sized goldfish.
Well,
I don't think whaling is quite criticizing querulously.
carp.
Carp, on the other hand, is. Well done. 2 marks. Antonia, a small fishing boat and a manually applied rebuke.
Can I do it?
Yes, you can.
Smack.
Smack is right. Well done. An extra 2 marks. Dilys, to set on fire and a collection of kittens. Piece of brazen help being given from the audience. I will give you half a mark for the sheer gall where you just turned around and asked the audience to get your points for you. But half a mark, I'm afraid, is all you get. A kindle of kittens is the right answer. Denis, harmoniously agreeable and an alphabetical element. The initial letter is C.
Oh, it's a word.
Which is also that particular form of alphabet.
Consonant.
Consonant is right. 2 marks, you score. And so now we come to the last round, and Frank and Denis's quotations. Marks, as usual, will be awarded on the length of the applause from the audience here in the theatre. And Frank, ready? Your quotation is, "Oh, for the touch of a vanished hand."
It was terribly difficult for me because it's Fred, you see. It's Fred, the chap who comes and gardens on Friday mornings. And he had to buy a swan-necked hoe. He said, I want one about 10 inches wide, with a beautiful swan neck and a long wooden handle. He said, there's nothing like it for the weeds. Get in among the weeds with it. I said, I can buy you, of course I can buy you one. And he looked at me narrowly again, as though he didn't think I could. I seem to have let the man down. Isn't that an uncomfortable feeling you have? I think it was perhaps the occasion of the hose pipe. And he wanted to water the shrubs, and we've got a borehole and an electric motor, which is sort of round the corner of the house. And Fred paid up the hose and asked me if I'd kindly switch on the electric motor at the top of the borehole, you see, because it was a long way and he wanted to hold the end of the hose. And it had one of those plastic fasteners where the sort of female, the socket, is on the hose and the other bit's on the sprayer. And he couldn't get the bit off to put it on. He couldn't get it onto the sprayer. So he shoved the hose down the back of his trousers. Meanwhile, I was round the side waiting for his command, you see. Now, apparently what he said, trying to get this thing on, was, done it, on! You see, now, when you're waiting for instructions, standing by a switch, and you hear, turn it on! You see, naturally I turned it on. It had some vague, muffled, weird sound. It sort of ballooned out the water, got down the back of his trousers, and sort of filled his trousers and his gumboots and knocked. He looked like an old Dutchman. So ever since then he's had this strange way of looking at me as though he doesn't trust me. So when Frank said to me, can you get this swan-necked hoe? I said, of course I can. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, of course. Have you ever tried to buy a swan-necked hoe? They have ceased to exist. They're no longer made. I went along to this place in Bedfont near London Airport, which actually makes the hoes and gardening implements. It's gardening engineering. Chap said, "Don't call for them anymore, sir. Don't have them. It's the Dutch hoe you want." And he produced me this frightful thing. It was clad in plastic. It had a bright blue plastic handle. And the blade, instead of being nice dull metal, just aching for the file to sharpen it, and just going rusty where it's been welded onto the handle, was a very, very nasty sort of thing, varnished on the edge which goes into the earth. But I had to buy it, as all there is, and I've got to face Fred tomorrow. And he wanted a hoe for the British craftsman of a swan neck charm. What do I give him? Well, in the words of Tennyson, hoe for the Dutch of a varnished end.
Denis, now, let's see how you get on with you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Well, do you find it as touching as I do that despite all the honours and tokens of public acclaim that have been heaped upon Frank Muir, some of them from a great height, despite all those, the one honour he most avidly craves is the one that has always eluded him. I'm talking about is seeing his name in the Guinness Book of Records. Now, I must admit, when he first told me about that, I found that secret wish of his so moving, I straight away went up, bought a copy of the book, studied it, then came back and reported to him. It seems to me, I said, that the way most people in there qualified for entry was by managing to do something either faster or longer or more often than anyone had ever done that before, like Fyodor Vasilet of Moscow, who fathered 69 children, or Don Carter of Hill McCoy High School, Michigan, who by use of quite different skills balanced on one foot for 8 hours, 46 minutes. So I said to Frank, if you could now beat any of those records. Now, Frank thought about that for a couple of minutes. He said, how many children did you say that Russian fellow had? I said, 69, but seeing that you've already got 2, your target figure is really only 68. That's true, he said. Is it? The only trouble is, could I manage it in time to get into the next edition? So out came the book again, and we looked for some other feats of skill and endurance that he might possibly have a chance of bettering. And the one that seemed in every way the least strenuous was the record set up by Mr. Crosby of Harrogate, who earned his inclusion by spitting a cherry stone 42 feet, 5.5 inches from a sitting position. Consequently, there and then, I went out, bought 2 pounds of cooking cherries. Well, it seemed a bit extravagant to buy the eating ones just for spitting out purposes. And then Frank settled himself with them in a comfortable armchair while I stood by with a tape measure. Well, something we both learned is that long-distance cherry stone spitting is not as easy as it sounds. In the first place, perhaps Frank shouldn't even have considered making his attempt on the spitting record while seated inside the Savile Club. At any rate, that seems to be the opinion of the membership committee. Secondly, it could be that this particular activity should never really be even attempted by someone who has any kind of bridge work in his mouth. 3 times I had to dash out into Brook Street and retrieve it from under a taxi. And thirdly, I didn't even know there was such an ailment as dislocation of the tongue. Well, I telephoned the former athletics champion who's been editing the Guinness Book of Records now since 1955, Mr. Norris McWhirter, invited him out to an absolutely slap-up dinner. Tell me, Mr. McWhirter, I said, would you be prepared to compromise your principles by including the name of a man who's established what you might call a sort of world record? He looked at me suspiciously. What do you mean, a sort of record? He said. Well, I said, isn't it in itself a record to have made more unsuccessful attempts to get into the Guinness Book of Records than anyone else on record? Would you credit that despite all that expensive food and drink I'd poured down him, that man refused to bend his rules one tiny bit? Which only goes to show how true that old proverb is. You can feed a Norris McWhirter, but you cannot make him think.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to your applause, Frank wins the story, but Denis and Antonia are the overall winners. And so now it's goodbye from Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir, and Denis Norden.
In my work, the chairman was John Julius Norwich. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced by Tony Schrein. We present My Word. Panel game devised by Tony Schrein and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is John Julius Norwich.
Thank you. Our teams for this week are Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir, and Denis Norden. And off we go straight into the first round, which probes their vocabulary. For 2 marks, Frank, what is the meaning of the word Charlie horse?
I'm going to stagger you because I know this. And it's very, very surprising. And it was told to me by a very long, bald Irishman, Patrick Campbell, whose name escapes me. And it is in fact, incredible though it may sound, it's a kind of muscular fatigue which baseball players get in America after a particularly tedious game.
Well done. 2 marks. Antonia, somniloquy.
Oh, now that must be the sort of thing Lady Macbeth was rather fond of. Taking the rude. I mean, it must be talking in your sleep.
Talking in your sleep is precisely what it is. Dilys, beeswing. Or possibly bee-swing. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. Beeswing, I think.
I have a feeling it's something to do with drink.
Yes?
Some reminiscence of reading a wine catalogue tells me that on some kind of drink, something forms. It's not actually penicillin. It's something of the sort which is called beeswing.
Can you tell me what sort of drink it is?
It's something I don't often drink, and I think it's port.
It's port. You're perfectly right. You've got it 100%. Beeswing is the crust of a filmy, tartarous scale that forms on aged port. I thought it only formed on my tongue, but apparently aged port is another surface. Well done. 2 marks. Denis, God-watery.
Well, I've always understood this to mean is a kind of, it's a particularly kind of turgid, sort of day-glow prose that, as in that little poem, which I always associate with poker work. A garden is a lovesome thing, God wot, and then it goes on about fringe, grot, and fern plot. It's a rather tushy type of writing.
In fact, it's an affected or over-elaborate style, not so much of speech, but of gardening.
I tell you what kind of saying it is. I was once having a furious row with an American about money that he owed me, and a little boy, somebody else, a little boy, came into the room and said, "Is my mummy here?" And he said, "No, he's not here, sonny." And he turned back to me after showing the kid out, and he said, "A man never stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child." And I thought that was God-watching, and particularly as it was rather spot. Yes. About 4 minutes later, the kid came in again. He opened the door and said, "Will somebody keep that damn kid out of here?"
Well, you've got everything except the precise meaning of the word. But you gave so much extra. I'll give you 1.5. If you can tell me who wrote A Gardener's Love Thing, God What, I'll give you 2.
I don't think he ever wrote anything. No, I don't know if he wrote.
Yes, he did.
Did he?
He did indeed. It was Brown, wasn't it?
Brown is right.
Brown.
1.5 for Denis.
Brown, who was a master at Clifton College, Bristol, and is the national poet of the Isle of Man.
Now he's showing off. Nonetheless, 1.5 marks for Denis and a
It's
half
in
mark
my
bonus.
book, sir.
Is it T.
In that case, it must
Brown?
be true.
Was it T. Brown, the humorist?
No.
Thomas Edward Brown was his name.
No, he's a Manx poet, and he wrote poems in the Manx dialect amidst a hanging garden of apostrophes.
Well, 1.5 for Denis and a half a mark bonus for Frank, for knowing about the Isle of Man.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now before we go on to round 2, Frank and Denis, here are the quotations that you were given for the last round. Frank, yours is, and I quote from the book, I think I'm right in saying, of Ecclesiastes, "As the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of a fool." The phrase constantly on my lips. Yours, Denis, "Do not try to bite off more than you can chew." Right? So now we go on to a round which is entitled, "Who is she?" For 2 marks, Frank, I want you to identify the lady who is referred to in the following quotation. "She eats broken bottles and wears barbed wire next to the skin."
One of the characteristics of P.G. Wodehouse was a hatred of aunts, which is rather significant. And there were 2, Aunt Dahlia, who were sisters, Aunt Dahlia and Aunt Agatha. And Aunt Dahlia was rather nice and could see good in Bertie. But Aunt Agatha never could see Bertie, any good at all in Bertie. She was tall, grey and bony, wasn't she? And according to Bertie, she ate broken glass and wore barbed wire next to her skin.
You're perfectly right. 2 full and well-deserved marks for Bertie Wooster's Aunt Agatha by P.G. Wodehouse. Antonia, she must have been a very little lady.
She must have been a very little lady.
Yes.
It wasn't from Houseman about Queen Victoria, was it?
Well, you're right on Queen Victoria.
Oh.
You're wrong actually on Houseman. Anybody know who it was, if not Houseman? No, I'll tell you. It was Noel Card in Cavalcade, Joe Marriott seeing Queen Victoria's coffin passing by. She must have been a very little lady. 1 mark, anyway, for Queen Victoria. Dilys. "She found me roots of relish sweet and honey wild and manna dew."
She's La Belle Dame Sans Merci, I think, isn't she?
La Belle Dame Sans Merci is exactly who she is. By, I need hardly ask you, Keats is right. Well done, 2 marks. Denis. "In a world that is supposed to be swayed by hunger and by love, she was an exception. Her movements and motives were largely governed by dislike of Luna Bimberton."
Well, that descended with a thud then. I don't know. Up to there, it sounded like Jane Austen, but
It could be
Saki.
Saki it is. You're perfectly right.
Very good.
It's Saki.
Well done.
It's
No,
Saki.
just had
Would you
the
like?
note of Saki.
Would you like to hazard a guess, to coin a phrase, at the name of the story?
H.H. Munro.
Well, he was another aunt hater, wasn't he?
He was.
Lots of his stories are permeated with hatred of aunts.
It wasn't the unbearable Bassington. It wasn't the long...
It was not the unbearable Bassington.
No, I don't know.
It was another particularly good surname. I'll tell you what it was. It was Mrs. Packletide's Tiger.
Oh, yes.
1 mark out of 2. A round now of origins and derivations with a sporting flavour. Frank, for 2 marks, what are the origins of the following words or phrases, or from what did they derive? It's not on. It just simply isn't on.
Striptease. Well, presumably it's the game is off. It's not on the fixture list.
Not quite, I'm afraid. No, it's more specific than that. No, I don't think you're going to get it. I'll tell you what it is. It comes from the game of snooker. It's a comment upon a snooker, having your object ball obscured by another ball. You say it's not on.
What a silly thing to say.
There it is.
Say not in or not near or something.
Well, you say it's not
Table
on.
tennis, you'd say it, wouldn't you?
You might, but you wouldn't. Antonia, from the game of golf, what do you think bogey derives from?
Well, I feel golf, coming as it did from at least the 16th century, anticipated Colonel Bogey, so I shall immediately put him right out of my mind. Correct? To put him out of my mind, I mean.
Correct.
What a relief. Okay, so it's the bogeyman, the devil.
Yes. Do you know how that got into golf, though?
Well, I suppose people swear terribly when they play golf, do they?
They say, oh, bogey.
Yes.
I don't think they do quite, no. I'll tell you what it is. I'll give you 1 mark for the bogeyman, which is perfectly true. It's said to date from 1890 and to derive from the then popular song, which was the bogeyman. Anyway, an initiate to the game, informed of the scratch score for each hole, apparently decided that he was playing against an invisible bogeyman. In other words, a near-invincible opponent, a sort of gremlin of the course. And that's what it came from. Dilys, from the game of tennis, deuce.
What have I got to do with it?
Tell me what it comes from.
Bat it back.
It's the deuce, you say, when you haven't won and you've got another 200 games to play at Wimbledon.
Well, again, it's a nice idea, but it's not strictly true.
Strictly true?
It's probably
Deuce?
French.
De. Comes from de.
De, it does. Can you go any further? Why should it come from de?
Yes, you've got to play 2 more shots.
Perfectly right. Well done. Derives from the French de. De à gagner. 2 more to win. 2 more points to win. Well done. Denis, from the sport now of sailing. Derivation of the word spinnaker, please.
Spinnaker. Is it a foreign word? Did it start by being a foreign word, or is it a good, hearty English marriage
Rather a difficult question to answer. I would say, really, it's a good, straight English word, but it's a word which is applied to something which is indubitably foreign.
Then I will reply with good, straightforward English ignorance.
I will tell you. It's a fanciful formation of and from the name of a yacht, which was the Sphinx. Is the Sphinx an English word? I don't know. Which in 1866 was the first to set this particular sort of billowing, ballooning jib. A round of dramatic dialogue now follows, with a recorded excerpt from a radio play. This is a team round, so Frank and Dilys first. Listen to the following dialogue and be prepared, please, to answer 2 questions. Question 1 is, what is the title of the play and the name of its author? And question 2 is, what are the names of the 2 characters who speak the lines you're going to hear?
Let me recommend to your attention this singular epidemic among the sheep.
You consider that important?
Exceedingly so.
Is there any other point you wish to draw to my attention?
To the curious incident of the dog in the night time.
The dog did nothing in the night time.
That was the curious incident.
Well,
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes is perfectly right. Can you tell me what from?
One of his stories dramatised for radio by Denis Norden. It's one about, the dog in the nightclub.
Dog in the night, yes. That's right. Yes,
Nighttime.
Yes.
Is it the Hound of the
Bark,
Thingamies?
yes. No.
No.
It's not the Hound of the Baskervilles, no.
It's Sherlock Holmes and
Yes.
Dr. Watson.
Yes.
Point two.
Yes, dear.
It's
yes.
actually not Dr. Watson.
Not Dr.
Sherlock Holmes.
It's
It's
a
not
man,
Dr. Watson.
radio
it's
actor.
a police character.
That's right.
It's the police sergeant whose name, or inspector whose name I can never remember. What was his name?
It's Inspector Gregory, and it's from the Silver Blaze.
the horse
Well, we asked you four
Racehorse.
things. We asked you the title, the author, and the two characters. You got 2 out of 4, so I'll give you 1 out of 2. And now, Denis and Antonia. Again, listen to the dialogue and stand by once again to tell me A, the title, B, the author, C, the name of one character, and D, the name of the other character.
What are you doing?
Getting my things together. You seen a tobacco pouch anywhere?
It's here.
Oh, thank you. Old Wellingtonian colours.
Why have you told so many awful lies?
I don't like myself as I am, I suppose, so I've had to invent another person. It's not so harmful, really. You know, we've all got daydreams.
Yes, we think we've got the play, and
The play is Separate Tables
The play is Separate Tables.
by Terence Rattigan.
By Terence Rattigan.
And we were so moved by what we heard that we're just struggling through our tears, and we'll let you know the names of the characters.
he was Major something or other.
Yes.
He was.
And she was Miss somebody.
I can't remember what Major he was. Major, the Major. Can't remember.
No, you give up.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, it was Major Pollock and Sybil Railton Bell.
Oh, yes.
Railton.
1 mark out of 2. And so we come to the last round and Frank and Denis's quotations. The marks will be awarded, as usual, on the length of the applause from the audience here in the theatre. And Frank, your quotation is, I repeat, as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of a fool.
Hello, children. Are you all sitting comfortably? I want to tell you a little animal story this afternoon about how Percy Vole got sent away from Never Never Land. Never Never Land was called Never Never Land because the little ducks kept warm by a little down every week. And the parrots lived on higher perches. Now, all the animals were very happy, and they knew each other, and they loved each other, and they called each other by their nicknames, or their pet names. There was Starker the Otter. He wasn't always Starker the Otter. He used to be Tarker the Otter, but he molted. And his best friend of all was Geese. And Geese was a water otter. They all the time, they played together and they gamboled in the river, on the water, in the riverbanks, and amongst their friends were water birds like Deborah Dabchick and Mildred Moorhen, and a visitor from the seaside, Tommy Turn. Tommy Turn was such a good seabird. He spent all day finding food for his little sister and cleaning his feet. I sometimes wish that some clever nature writer like Mr. Henry Williamson would write a book about him. I feel, don't you, that one good turn deserves an author. I suppose the wickedness must come into any community, and the wickedness were the little herd of fawns. They just played around all the time and didn't care where they trod, and they'd walk over rabbits' ears. And when that happened, they were put on a report, which meant that instead of playing, they had to stay all day under the weeping willow tree. But of course, they still played because they were naughty, and they told each other jokes and they cackled. Now, in the weeping willow tree lived Old Owl, who was the head of Never Never Land. And Owl, of course, had to sleep during the day, and he couldn't sleep because all this tittering and cackling from these fawns dashing about. So he banished them from Never Never Land. Now, Percy Vole, the vole, who was a lovely, lovely little creature, he at last had a chance to be by the riverside, because he didn't dare with all the fawns dashing about in case his ear got trodden on. But with the fawns away, he took up residence under the weeping willow tree, and what a lovely day he had watching the dab chicks turn upside down and disappear in the water, and watching funny creatures like that little water creature that used to sing all day and fall into the water, Titus a newt. But he used to laugh too because he was so happy. But though the other animals and humans couldn't hear his laughter because it was so high-pitched, the owl's ear is tuned in to mice, which have very high-pitched voices. And Old Owl couldn't sleep with Percy Vole underneath because of this laughter which pierced his ears. So he said, "Banish the vole." And all the other creatures rushed out and said, "No, no, Vole is so nice and so happy. He's done no harm." And the owl said, "He has. He keeps me awake." They said, "He makes no noise." And the owl said, "Yes, he does." With a kind of Old Testament statement, he said, "As the cackling of fawns on a pot, so is the laughter of a vole."
Your turn, Dennis. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew.
What started the whole rotten episode was when my bank manager called me into his office to inform me that my rotten account was overdrawn and he was now demanding of me what he called a period of retrenchment. If I may describe your financial position in homely terms, he said, what you've been doing is earning money in centigrade and spending it in Fahrenheit. Not only, he said, not only can you not afford your present lifestyle, you can't even afford the VAT on your present lifestyle. I want you to promise me, he said, that you will effect sufficient economies to write off your overdraft within 6 months. Now, up to that moment, I wasn't even aware that I had a lifestyle. I thought I just lived. But that bank manager put the wind up me so much, I couldn't wait to get home and inform my household that from now on, their vita had to become a whole lot less dolce. Henceforth, I informed the dismayed faces gathered around me, henceforth it's farewell the Nordens, hello the Waltons. It's now penny pinching time. Whatever economies can be affected, they will be put into operation as of today in order to save money on electricity and household purchases. The TV goes off at 10 and everybody brushes their teeth manually. Now, by sheer chance, only the previous week, one of our leading women's magazines had come out with a big article called "How We Can All Cut Costs and Curb Inflation." You know the magazine I mean. It's the one that the following week put its price up. But the main thrust of this article was that in order to reduce household expenses, it's not really necessary to go without anything. Just buy wisely, it said. Try bulk buying or mail order or
keep your eyes open for goods reduced in price because they're just slightly flawed. Well, I obeyed all 3 of those instructions. As regards bulk buying, well, there was only one item in that particular category that was on sale round our way that week, so it could be I was a little bit too hasty about it. I'm not sure, but I'm now of the opinion that black pepper isn't something an average family really needs to purchase in bulk. Beside the problem of storing the sacks, my son worked out it's going to take another 4 generations to get through the whole hundredweight. Now, with regard to the goods advertised as slightly flawed, well, there again, perhaps we should have inquired a bit more first. I'm still uncertain whether it counts as economizing to buy 24 pillowcases with no openings in them. As for saving money by mail order purchases, well, there I think we were just unlucky. The £25 suit advertised as made in Taiwan and virtually indistinguishable from Savile Row tailoring, well, that claim was more or less true. You'd have had to be really sharp-eyed to notice that the fly was at the back. And bad luck played an equal part in some of the other minor economies I put into effect. A few of them were fairly successful, like squeezing the last possible drop from a tube of toothpaste by placing it on the dining room floor, then jumping down on it from the top of the sideboard. Or the one where I achieved a saving in bathroom requisites by affixing a rev counter to the toilet roll holder. They did work. They worked reasonably well, actually. And what you may ask was the net result of all that? Well, I am proud to report to you that after a determined 6 months of depriving my family of every unnecessary and extraneous luxury, when I went back to that bank manager, I was only another 600 quid further into the red. The lesson, according to the bank manager, being that it's a waste of time trying to get your overdraft written off unless you're prepared to do without such things as food, clothing, and a roof over your head. Or to use another of his homely expressions, don't try to write off more than you can eschew.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to your applause, Denis wins the story this week, but Dilys and Frank are the overall winners. And so now it's goodbye from Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir, and Denis Norden.
In My Word, the chairman was John Julius Norwich. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced by Denis Norden.
You've been listening to My Word from the BBC, heard each week at this time.
We present My Word. A panel game devised by Denis Norden and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is John Julius Norwich.
Thank you very much. Our teams for this week are Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden. And so off we go straight into the first round, which, as usual, probes their vocabulary. For 2 marks, Frank, what is the meaning of the word cinerarium?
Is it Roman? Is it Latin for a house of ill repute?
None.
Cineraria is a flower.
So it's a singular flower.
It's not even a singular flower.
Is it an underwater cinema?
Not.
Is it... Come on, cinerarium. How do you spell it?
Full marks for trying, but actually no marks for getting the correct answer. It is a recess in which an urnful of cremated ashes is kept. Antonia, the meaning, please, of a bingle.
A bingle.
A bingle.
Well, if there's any justice, and I'm not quite sure whether there is, as a dingle means a dell, a bingle ought to mean a bell. How is that? Is there any justice?
Alas, none. No justice.
Dare Bingle was one of the affectionate terms by which Bing Crosby was known.
It was, but this is a bingle, not even ein bingle.
It's a bangle squashed flat.
I'll tell you what it is. It's a cross between a bob and a shingle, a term I take from international coiffure. Dilys, what is an antigropelos? Antigropelos.
Greek.
It's Greek.
Yeah.
It's Greek.
It's Greek.
Yes.
All right,
It's Greek.
yeah, it's Greek.
It's Antigropelos. It's a Puritan Greek sect which was against groping.
I withhold 1 bonus mark for the anti-groping Greek saint. It's so much better than the real answer, which is in fact waterproof leggings. Denis, infundibular.
Wait a minute. Is that a word I would have learnt in chemistry lesson?
Indirectly you might have, I suppose, but it would be fairly indirect.
Well, it would be, because I didn't actually learn anything during chemistry lesson. It's one of those things that didn't stay with me at all, except if you dropped a farthing in some kind of acid, it came out looking like a golden sovereign. Now, thousands of people all over the world are saying, Dad, what's a farthing? Is it? No, that's about as far as I can go.
No.
It sounds Latinish.
Well,
Latinate.
Latinish is what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It simply means funnel-shaped.
Ah, yes, it would be. Then it would be a vessel.
So you could perhaps, in your case, as a sort of an infundibular piece of litmus paper or something like that. But I can't, alas, give you any marks for it. However, before we go into round 2, Frank and Denis, here, as usual, are the quotations you were given for the last round. Frank, your quotation is, I am monarch of all I survey. And Denis, yours is, the stars and stripes forever. And now we go into a round of unlikely connections. For 2 marks. Frank, what is the connection or the association between the following pairs of names or words? Major Wingfield and Wimbledon.
Ah, yes. Major Wingfield invented a portable tennis court. In other words, he took real tennis away from the court, the built, manufactured court room, as it were, and said, let's do it on grass with lines and things. And therefore you could play it anywhere. And they played it at Wimbledon because their name was the Croquet Club and it wasn't long enough. So they thought if they made it the Croquet and Lawn Tennis Club, it would carry a bit more class.
Well done. It was Major Wingfield who was the first person who said, let's do it on the grass. In 1874, he patented a game which was based, as you rightly say, upon real tennis that could be played out of doors. His game was adapted and refined by the All England Croquet Club at Wimbledon. 2 marks. Antonia. Enoch Arden and William Crichton.
Well, Enoch Arden came back from the dead, didn't he, and gave everybody good fright. Isn't that Enoch Arden?
The world has never seen a costlier funeral.
Yes. William Crichton, I don't know about quite so much, but I assume he either was a undertaker or did likewise, came back and gave a whole lot of other people good fright.
Would he be the admirable?
Now you're getting somewhere. He was extremely admirable.
You mean the butler lost on the desert island?
The butler lost on the desert island is exactly who he was.
Well, then...
But what's his link with Enoch Arden?
Well, they also came back, didn't they? They came back from their desert island.
Well, they were both shipwrecked. And how else, anyway, do you get to a desert island? You're perfectly right. I think I'll give you 2 marks for it. The actual answer is they were both shipwrecked, but desert islands are the sort of places that only shipwrecked people get to, aren't they? So, 2 marks you get. Dilys. The connection, please, between a newt and an orange.
They're both drunk except an orange.
Well, I can tell one from the other. A newt. One's a fruit and the other's not quite a fish. They both sort of originated in South America or something like that.
Are they both apples?
Neither, actually.
Neither are apples.
No. I don't think you're going to get it.
Orange pepper, no.
I don't think you're going to get it. I'll tell you what the answer is. It's quite interesting. Both words have changed from their original spelling because of an initial letter N.
Transferred
a newt was originally called an ute. Whereas an orange was originally called a norange.
An apron.
And in most languages, in fact, except English and French, it still is. It still begins with an N and then sounds more or less like narange or narange or something like that afterwards. Denis, see if you can do this one. The link, please, between Oliver Cromwell and Tom Sawyer.
Well, I have sitting beside me Oliver Cromwell's press relations officer.
But I never worked with Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer. Well, you know all about Oliver Cromwell. Let's see, what do I know about Tom Sawyer? Did Oliver Cromwell have an Aunt Polly?
Well, I suppose...
Poll, that's right. Poll. He was known... Wasn't he known as...
Well, Old Noel, actually.
Old Noel, that's right. Yes, that was... Oliver Goldsmith was he Poll?
He talked like poor Poll.
Talked like poor Poll.
Did Tom Sawyer have a wart?
That's it, a wart. Yes, wart.
Warts is, in fact, the right answer. Oliver Cromwell had them on his face. Tom Sawyer had them on his hands. I think I will give a little bonus mark to Frank for getting warts. But alas, I don't think I can give them to you for nolls or... Now, a round of differences. For 2 marks, what is the difference in meaning between the following 2 words? Frank. Rare and scarce.
Very little difference. Scarce means there aren't many of them about. They're difficult to find. They are... Rare means there aren't many of them about. But rare, does it not, has... the word implies a quality, which the word scarce doesn't. In other words, a rare book is a book which is valuable because it's scarce.
I think it's much, much easier than that. Rare is used of things that are infrequent at all times, but also of things that have superior qualities. Scarce are of things that are only temporarily infrequent. If something is rare, it's rare always. It's a rare book or it's a rare bird, and it's rare for keeps. It's really the difference between something temporary and something permanent. Antonia, the difference, please, between to perturb and to disturb.
To disturb. If you disturbed me too much on this programme, I should leap over the platform. If you perturbed me, I would burst into floods of tears.
Yes, but what is actually the difference in the meaning of the words rather than your reaction to them?
Well, one is that I was attempting to illustrate. I thought it would make it easier for you to understand
Give examples,
my meaning.
Yeah.
And easier for me. Interior and exterior.
Interior and exterior, I think that's really got it, yes. Perturb means a state of spiritual or mental agitation, whereas disturb defines a state of physical discomfort or unease. Well done. Dilys. Now, here's a very, very subtle one for you. The difference, please, between to loose and to loosen.
Loosen. You don't loosen the dogs of war. You let loose the dogs of war, don't you?
Well, that's letting loose. That's yet a third thing, which, thank God, I'm not asking you.
To loose
to
trick. Might be a clue.
Well, you'd never know, do you?
I think
loose. No.
To loose is to let them all go.
To loose is to absolutely undo something, and to loosen is not quite to undo it. To make it possible for the prisoner then to, using his teeth or something or other.
Quite right.
To get out.
Perfectly right. Loosening is really halfway to loosing. Well done. Denis, the difference, please, between to bring and to fetch.
Oh. That's good, isn't it? Well, you wouldn't say, if you said, fetch me my bow of burning gold,
yes,
that would imply that whoever you're saying it to starts off from here and goes there. If I say, bring me my bow of burning gold, I'm implying that the person I'm instructing is already there to come here. So it's a question of where you start from.
You think fetch implies a sort of U-turn?
Implies leaving here and going there, whereas bring, I would say, means come from there to here with it.
You don't shout bring to a dog, do
No,
you?
you say fetch when the dog's at your side or near about.
Yes.
It's slightly more effort involved in fetch. You've got to do the double journey.
I think you're right about there being more effort, but I'm not quite sure about the double journey. I think the real thing, at least what the dictionary says, is it's ultimately a matter of distance. To bring is something that you bring from quite close to. To fetch is something you have to bring from much further away. In fact, they ought to have said, fetch back my bonnet to me.
Yes.
In this round, the teams are asked to recite, each, one line at a time, some verses from a well-known poem. On this occasion, the first verse only of Ben Jonson's tribute entitled to Celia. Starting with you, Frank, will you please lead on to Celia?
Oh!
That's it?
Yes.
Got it.
Drink to me only with thine eyes.
Stop. Antonia.
This bit has never been sung, and I will pledge with thine.
With?
Mine, of course.
Mine. Dilys.
Or leave a kiss within the cup.
And I'll not ask for wine.
The thirst that the soul needs.
I don't think absolutely. Can anybody else do it?
The thirst that from the soul doth rise.
Well done, Denis. Antonia.
No.
Doth ask a kiss divine.
Doth ask a...
Kiss.
Drink divine.
Drink divine. Dilys.
But might I from of Jove's nectar sup?
Yes.
Sup.
Sup, Denis.
I would not change for thine.
Well done. Denis gets 2 marks. He got all his right. Antonia gets 1 mark because she only got some of hers right. Dilys and Frank get 1 mark each, which means 3 marks to Denis and Antonia and 2 marks to Frank and Dilys. And now we come to the last round, and Frank and Denis's quotations. Marks awarded as usual on the length of the applause from the audience here in the theatre. Frank, your quotation is, I am monarch of all I survey.
I want you to be the first to know that we've got a 3rd kitten now in the family, which is a Burmese kitten. And, tremendous, marvellous kitten. It's almost human. It's almost human in several ways. One is that it's it talks all the time. I had a girlfriend like that once. I was 12 at the time. Her name was Liza Dumore. And I used to take her to the concert party at the Bohemia, and she used to talk all the way through it. And the other thing about my kitten is that he's shy. At the moment, he lives up the back of my sweater. I don't know why he does it. Not outside, but touch of the Richard III's, you know. He crawls up inside, and he hangs there. And at lunchtime, I have to get him out again, which is okay normally. But if I'm alone in the house, it means I have to back down the drive to the front gate and get a cat-loving passer-by to wrench him out. And I had a girlfriend like that who was shy. Her name was Monica Willoughby, and she was painfully shy. She used to, if a stranger even looked at her, her rather sallow complexion used to change and go bright scarlet. It was like taking out a traffic light. Well, my kitten was like Monica, and another thing that my human-like characteristic my kitten has is he's a lovely cream-coloured, a sort of blonde, cream and peaches, really. And I had a girlfriend like that once. It was during the war, and she was a masseuse. I had an appendix out at the RAF hospital at Ringway, and she came to give me postnatal contractions. Her name was Sergeant Fay Bloater. And her one object in life was to get married. I don't know why. Sergeant Bloater had this lovely blonde hair. You know, the French have a saying, at every parting we die a little. I think she must have... And what she'd done was to sort of dye her parting dark. She must have blackened it or something. Our romance was not to be, because she got a compassionate posting to Iceland. I never saw her again. And the other kind of thing my kitten has is he's very clumsy. You know how kittens race at an apple tree and run up it? My kitten races at the apple tree, and his head hits it with a thud, and he sort of staggers back. And I had a girlfriend like that once. Her name was Val Valentine. She was a burly girl, and her mother used to say, "Hand the cakes round, Val." And Val would pick up the plate of cakes and swing it round, and all the cakes would thud into the wallpaper and here, and the plate would hit a small occasional table and crash. And our romance finished one Sunday lunch where I was invited there, and I reeled away with crackling in my hair and an earful of apple sauce and a pint and a half of gravy down my trousers. But my daughter said, you know, we must name the kitten. We really must name the kitten. And I thought, I was very worried about naming. I couldn't think of a name for it. And I thought that as this kitten has the characteristics of these 4 ex-girlfriends of mine, why don't I arrange their Christian names in the most euphonious order? Which is what we've done. And now very soon the kitten will sit high up and gaze down at the inferior world, and she'll have a little collar on her, and the collar will have a little name tab, and the name tab will say, "I am Monica Val Liza Fay."
Denis, your turn. The Stars and Stripes Forever.
I don't know how you feel about fancy dress parties, but in my opinion, which I respect, as a source of pleasure, they rank somewhere on the same level as cleaning the oven. That's why last August, when a certain somewhat florid magazine publisher invited us to an opulent costume party at his legendary country house, my first impulse was to try and weasel out, which my wife couldn't understand. Oh, come on, she said, this one shouldn't present any difficulties to you, because the invitation says, come as the title of your favourite film. Well, you love films, she said. There must be hundreds of titles you could design yourself a costume for. But, as I've said, my enthusiasm for any kind of dressing up cannot be understressed, which is why, as we went to the garage to get into the car on the night of the party, I was simply wearing my ordinary clothes. If questioned, I was going to claim that I was representing either the man in the grey flannel suit, or if I was in the company of my wife, the odd couple. And I say that because she'd really entered into the spirit of the thing. She'd found herself an exceedingly low-cut chiffon nightie, cut it even lower, and was going as in the heat of the night. And that's where my trouble started, because when she asked me how she looked, I suggested that an equally suitable title might be Room at the Top. Well, she didn't take that very well. In fact, she jumped into the car, slammed the door, and whizzed off to the party on her own, leaving me with a distinct feeling that A, I was now in the doghouse, and B, the only way to get out of it would be to get into something more in the nature of real fancy dress myself, which is when I realized something else. Not only had she taken the car, but she'd also taken both sets of house keys. In other words, I now had to think up a costume that could be assembled only out of whatever was to hand in the garage, which wasn't much. Hanging on the back wall were two old school raincoats the kids used to wear. Now, if I put them on, I could possibly go as the Blue Max. Alternatively, there was an old Perspex windscreen leaning against the wall. Now, suppose I cut a section out of the back of my trousers, covered the hole with a square of the transparent plastic. Could I then pass myself off as one of my truly favourite films, Rear Window, or even possibly Smiling Through? But then the sight of two chamois leather washcloths reminded me of one of my all-time favourite films, Tarzan. From then on, it took me no time at all to strip right off, staple the chamois leathers together, and wrap them round myself into a sort of rudimentary jungle-type loincloth. Now, I still think that if the taxi I hailed hadn't broken down half a mile away from the country house, my wife would now be speaking to me. As it was, being forced to make the last part of the journey on foot, I decided not to court undue attention by walking along the road in such an exiguous garment, so I set off across the field, which is my second big mistake. I hadn't gone 10 yards and there was a pounding of hooves behind me. Looking over my shoulder, I saw the most wicked-looking bull I'd ever set eyes on. Well, I don't know if you ever tried to run quickly in a tight leather loincloth, but the fact is the faster you move, the closer the loincloth constricts. In fact, I'm sure that's why the real Tarzan emitted so many of those peculiarly high-pitched screams. In the end, the garment became such an impediment, I realized the only way I'd keep ahead of the bull was by whipping it off, which was why, when at 10 minutes to 12, I finally burst through the hedge onto the lawn where the fashionable gathering was assembled, I was panting, sweating, and stark naked. And of course, because they all thought that was the costume that I'd chosen, everybody was trying to guess which film I was supposed to be. I must say, some of the titles they suggested were really quite flattering, such as The Greatest Show on Earth, and Splendor in the Grass. But most of them, like The Pink Panther, were distinctly ill-mannered, particularly The Incredible Shrinking Man, or from somebody who was obviously a veteran film goer, Wee Willie Winky. But I didn't appreciate the full extent of my humiliation till a rather keen-eyed young farmer declared that the most suitable title for me had to be Midnight Cowboy. because, you see, the creature I'd been fleeing from didn't happen to be a bull at all, which explains the caption which the local paper put under the flashlight photo they printed, showing me running across a field with nothing on, holding a leather loincloth and hotly pursued by a young cow. It read, "This Tarzan strips for heifer."
Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to your applause, Denis wins the story this week, but Dilys and Frank are the overall winners. And so now it's goodbye from Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden.
In My Word, the chairman was John Julius Norwich. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced by Denis Norden. We present My Word. A panel game devised by Denis Norden and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is John Julius Norwich.
Thank you. Our teams for this week are Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden. And off we go straight into the first round, which, as usual, probes their vocabulary. For 2 marks, Denis, what is the meaning of the following word? A pseudoscope.
Pseudoscope. What comes to mind is Ernest Hemingway once said that every writer should have as essential part of his equipment a built-in foolproof horse manure detector. But he didn't say horse manure. Meaning something that immediately recognizes the false and the meretricious. And I think a pseudoscope would be a very good euphemism for a horse manure detector.
It would indeed, but it unfortunately doesn't mean that.
No,
so it won't actually give any marks.
It's something that detects falsehood in some way.
It doesn't even really, believe it or not, do that. No,
well, it's a thing that looks like it's...
He doesn't give up easily. That's the thing about
it. It's one of those... Do you remember when you used to have it when we were kids? They say, look through this telescope, and you looked through it, and it had soot on the eyepiece, and it wasn't really a telescope at all. It was a thing for applying black all around your eyes. Would that be a pseudoscope?
It wouldn't. It's an optical instrument, okay, so far, that makes convex objects seem concave, and vice versa.
Oh,
quite why this should be necessary, I'm not immediately able to reveal.
Dieting. But it's for if you're putting on weight. Oh. It's the only way.
Of course.
Look in the bathroom mirror in the morning, you look great.
Well, that's what it must be. Dilys, get the ball rolling kindly and tell me, what is a serinet?
How do you spell it?
Serinettete.
Serinet. You sure it isn't anything to do with a nightingale singing?
It could conceivably be. It isn't necessarily so. There's no reason why it shouldn't be a nightingale.
It's a bird singing.
It's a bird, yes. Something to do with a bird singing.
A bird singing in the et in the evening.
In the net.
In the net, yes. A serinet. It is something to do with the bird. Serinet.
I don't think you'll get the other half.
No?
But I'll give you 1 mark for the bird song, because it is about that. What it is actually, it's an organ-like instrument for teaching cage birds to sing. Antonia, to vilipend.
Oh, that sounds very unpleasant. I mean, if I was to vilipend your chairmanship, you might indignantly leave it. I mean,
I would, yes. With a
right.
sniff, I'd kick over my chair and my traces.
I see. So it's sort of along the lines of vilify. Not that I'm vilifying your chairmanship, I'm vilipending it.
You are. You seem to have got the right feeling about it.
To speak very ill of your chairmanship.
To speak very ill?
Well, I mean, you know I've been writing all this time. I mean, to sort of write down.
To write down very ill.
I mean,
to write down very ill.
I meant that from the first.
It does actually mean, yes, to disparage in writing. Oh, hell with it, I'll give you two. Two you get. Well done. Well done. Frank.
Yes.
Pasquinade.
It was originally, was it not, a scurrilous squib which was put into a statue of Pasquin.
That's exactly what it was.
Oh,
You're quite right, yes.
Frank.
In Rome, they discovered... In Rome, they dug up a battered old antique statue, which was called Pasquin for no particular reason, but it was. And every year in the Piazza Navona in Rome, they used to dress it up in different costumes. And people used to leave little poems around the base of the statue dedicated to Pasquin every year. And they became more and more scurrilous, more and more satirical, and hence the word Pasquinade. Well done. Now, before we go into round two, Denis and Frank, here are the quotations you were given for the last round. Denis, your quotation is that lovely song by the 17th century poet Sir John Suckling, "Why so pale and wan, fond lover?" And Frank, yours, more succinctly, is Tess of the d'Urbervilles. And now a round entitled, But Who Were They? For 2 marks, who or what are referred to in the following couplets of poetry, and whence comes the quotation? Denis. And when they get to feeling old, they up and shoot themselves, I'm told.
Yes. The Cambridge people rarely smile, being urban, squat, and full of guile. They love the good, they worship truth, they laugh uproariously in youth, but when they get to growing old, they up and shoot themselves, I'm told. Rupert Brooke.
The name of the poem?
Grantchester.
Well done. I shall give you not 2 marks, but 3. 3 marks for the extent and accuracy of Denis's quotation of Rupert Brooke. Dilys. They groaned, they stirred, they all uprose, nor spake, nor moved their eyes.
Sounds like the Ancient Mariner.
It does. You're perfectly right. And who are the they?
They were the ones who hadn't shot the albatross. They were the mariners, but not the ancient ones.
That's perfectly true. They were the dead crewmen in the Ancient Mariner by
Coleridge.
Can you give me another couple of lines for an extra mark?
I could give you not following. Must they be following?
Any old line.
Oh well. The sun's rim dips, the stars rush out. At one stride comes the dark.
Right. Well done. 3 marks. Antonia, who or what stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay?
Oh, I know it so well. Lovely yellow things, dancing and whatnot in the breeze.
That's it. I think you've got it. I think you may well have it.
Could it be our William?
William, it could be.
What
is the subject of his poem?
Daffodils.
Daffodils is right. Can you give me another line or 2 for an extra mark?
I know I wandered lonely as a cloud.
Right, that's all we need. 3 marks. Well done. You know, I knew that was the line you were going to choose.
How funny. I wonder why. If you'd asked me for another line, I could have done it, but it's too late.
Telepathy. Frank.
Yes.
Which, when her lovely laughter shows, they look like rosebuds filled with snow.
What's the question?
What or who is or are they?
What is the product?
Lips.
Lips is right. Whose?
Well, it should be called Amaryllis or Chloe or Celia.
Yes,
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is There Is a Garden in Her Face, the song Cherry Ripe by Thomas Campion. Now, a round entitled Something in Common. For 2 marks, Denis, what do the following words or phrases have in common? Yellow, hay, Blackwater, scarlet, and spring.
Blackwater, scarlet, and spring. Would Saturday Night be in among that band?
Oh, well.
I see the reference escapes you. It's fever.
Fever is exactly what it is. Fever is right, 2 marks. Dilys. Cotton, paper, tin, china, and diamond.
Anniversaries.
Anniversaries. Any particular sort of anniversary?
Weddings.
Perfectly right. Can you tell me what anniversaries they are? I mean, how many years in each case? For cotton?
I'm no mathematician.
For paper, for
no,
tin,
no.
For china, for diamond?
They rise. Cotton is rather small and diamond is very, very large.
Cotton, paper, tin, china, diamond are 1st, 2nd, 10th, 20th, and 60th, respectively. Antonia. Bounce, etching, booze, hobble, and splint.
Well, when you got to hobble, I thought it was going to be a skirt. But I've never heard of an etching skirt. And indeed, your face looks rather unreceptive. A splint skirt?
They make up a kind of short story, don't they? Because
She
he
bounced.
meets a young girl with bounce. He asks her to see his etching. He plies her with booze. She fetches him one that sends him hobbling, for which he has to get a splint.
Not an easy one. They are very difficult ones, these. They're all derived from the Dutch language. That's what they are. Frank. A double diamond, a pineapple, a monkey's fist, and an Admiral Elliot's eye.
Anything to do with drink?
No, but Admiral Elliot might just conceivably
Anything
give you
nautical?
a rather far-out clue.
Anything nautical?
Nautical.
Then it's a sail or it's a knot?
Well, which?
Dill, what do you reckon?
Let's try not, do you think?
Monkey's fist sounds like a knot, doesn't it?
It sounds like a knot.
We think it's a knot, sir.
You think absolutely right. They are all knots or splices that can be fashioned, surprisingly, in rope. 2 marks. And now for a round of origins and derivations. For 2 marks. What was the origin of the following word or phrase, or from what did it derive? Denis. The Iron Curtain.
Well, I know for years it was attributed to Winston Churchill, but then a whole school of thought developed to the effect that somebody else had said it earlier, but I don't know who it was. Do you know who
No, I was writing down Winston Churchill, rather helpful.
Yeah, no, I know it was one of those things that got shot down and people took great pleasure in denying that he was the first to say it, because he said it, didn't he, originally say it in a speech in America, didn't he? I owe all this to a television series about him. But I don't know who said it before him.
Well, I give you 1 mark for knowing that it was not said by Winston Churchill, because everybody always thinks it was. I mean, it was said by him, but it wasn't invented by him. We can take it certainly, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, it cites as the earliest usage the memoirs of Ethel Snowden, Through Bolshevik Russia, which was published in 1920. We were behind the Iron Curtain at last. Dilys, a caricature, the origin of that word.
Something to do with Italy. Italian. No?
Yes.
Yes, something to do with Italy. Italian.
Operatic background. It's like a colorature.
Una bella caricatura.
It's like a colorature and with more character.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's the actual Italian word which means overloaded or burdened. It means a drawing or a painting that's been exaggerated, that's carrying a greater load of description than it really ought to have. Antonia, a meringue.
As distinct from boomerang.
A meringue. A meringue.
A meringue.
Partner is looking...
I don't know, isn't there a South American, is it a dance or something called a merengue, or merengue, or...
No.
Or one of
Well,
Napoleon's victories, the
You are
Battle of
not-
Marengo.
Marengo.
Marengo. They had
And his horse.
to celebrate. Yes,
Of
they
course,
made
well
one
known
for
to be called meringue, was it?
Yes.
No, well, I don't think you got it. I have to tell you that nobody, I think, is 100% certain, but what is believed, what is generally believed by most authorities, is that it comes from one of two place names, either Meiringen in Germany or Meiringen in Switzerland.
But it could
Where
be
for the first time
Marengo.
they started doing these, in my view, simply disgusting things with the white of egg, and that was the result. For the town name was given to this concoction, and serve it jolly well right. Alas, I can't give you any marks, I'm sorry. But Frank, I'll try and give you one, or even two, if you can tell me the origin of the word hooch.
There was a tribe of American Indians in Alaska around about the turn of the century called the Hoochinoo. And I think they lived on an island or islands off Alaska. And time hanging heavy in Alaska during the winter months, they spent their time fermenting and brewing a fluid of awesome potency. Alcoholic fluid, of which Irvin S. Cobb said that one sudden jolt of it has been known to stop the victim's watch, snap his braces, and crack his glass eye right across. And it then became the word for any homemade, fearsome alcoholic liquid in America.
2 marks, and I think another bonus for that absolutely admirable quotation. It is indeed the abbreviation of Hoochinoo, a tribe of Alaskan Indians whose cottage industry, well, igloo industry, I suppose, it was to produce this lethal. Well done. 3 marks. So now we come to the last round and to Denis and Frank's quotations. The marks, as usual, will be awarded on the length of the applause from the audience here in the theatre. Denis, your quotation is Sir John Suckling's beautiful song, "Why So Pale and Wan, Fond Lover?"
Well, may I issue a general warning against the use of that popular aide memoir rather grandly known as the Executive Pocket Reminder Pad. You see, what drove me to the purchase of one was the unfortunate fact that as a man moves further and further into middle age, the memory is the second thing to go. But what happens, you see, isn't this sort of total amnesia that Ronald Colman suffered in Random Harvest. It's more that your processes of recall become unreliable. I don't mean just things like spending half an hour trying to remember what you did with your glasses, and then when you found them, another half an hour trying to remember what it was you wanted to look at. It's more that your memory seems to undergo certain weird blank patches. Now, that mention of Ronald Colman is a typical example. I mean, I can reel off the names of any number of 1940s film stars or Shakespearean characters or personages from history, but sometimes my son will ring up, and when my wife calls out, "Who's that on the phone?" I hear myself saying, "It's, what's his name?" Now that kind of unpredictable forgetfulness lands you in some tiresome situations. I'm not saying that an erratic memory is wholly without its advantages. I mean, constantly forgetting to pay your electricity bill may have its irritating aspects, but it is a very effective way to make sure your fridge gets defrosted regularly. And when it comes to watching television, well, haziness of recollection can work out a positive boon. I can sit through a murder mystery I first saw only 2 months ago and still not have any idea who did it. Nevertheless, there comes a moment, generally when you find yourself publicly coming out with statements like, 30 days hath September, and some other months I can't remember. There comes a moment when you decide your memory has got to have some kind of artificial aid. Well, my grandfather always said that if you want to remember something for always, write it down on a piece of paper, which is why my heart leapt within me this morning when I saw in a shop window this thing called an executive pocket reminder pad, because that's got all the bits of paper neatly gathered together in one small wallet. So all day today, every time something's come up that I need to remember, I've simply jotted it down with a small pencil that's attached to the thing onto the reminder pad, which brings me to that warning I mentioned. When using these reminder pads, it is essential that you jot down your memoranda in full, not in any abbreviated or note form. Otherwise, you wind up with what I was faced in when I glanced at the top sheet of the pad just before this programme. TGS to C, toilets, BRHBRBR, then a trio of what I can only describe as bathroom items, none of which make any sense whatsoever. Now, most of them I have now been able to assign some kind of meaning to. TGS to C, I've deciphered as take grey suit to cleaners. BRHBRBR is very consistent with bring home brown bread. Toilets is questionable. It could conceivably be to remind me of a rather natty anagram I heard of T.S. Eliot. But it's those three bathroom-type items that have still got me completely baffled. In the words of Sir John Suckling, why soap, pail, and one fawn loofah?
Your turn, Frank, now with Tests of the D'Urbervilles.
A few weeks ago, I told you of the problems I had with the chap who comes twice a week and arranges nature in our garden, Fred. And it was my inability to find him a swan-necked hoe, and I had to make do with a Dutch hoe and lost face. It's terribly important that Fred doesn't treat me as a complete nincompoop as regards gardens, or he'll go and work for somebody else. And it is most frightfully difficult, because I don't know a lot about nature and gardens and flowers. I know the difference between a daisy and a banana, but in between there's rather a grey area of identity, and I must appear to Fred as though I'm familiar with these things. But the most humiliating thing was when Fred suddenly said to me, Tailors. I thought, what is he referring? Tailors Andronicus? He said, Tailors, will you dig some potatoes for your wife? She wanted some potatoes and I'm busy. Would you dig them? I said, of course, Fred, naturally, like a flash. Of course I will. And I went to get a fork and realised that I couldn't find any potatoes. I looked all over the ground and looked up at the trees, but there were no potatoes at all. So my daughter was in bed with flu at the time, so I threw some gravel at the window and said, what do potatoes look like? And she pointed out where they were. So I dug a trench alongside the potatoes, about 2 feet wide and about 3 feet down. And then I tunnelled sideways. And I pulled the potatoes up downwards. And actually got them up unspoiled. But then Fred came and looked at me and said, what have you done? What have you done? So I said, I dug up the potatoes in a new way, and it was just waste ground here, just for these ferns. He said, it was the asparagus bed. And ever since he's been taciturn, not to say terse. When things aren't going well between us, he goes down to monosyllables. And yesterday, Fred said to me, "Dibber." And I thought it was a sort of Boy Scout thing, so I said, "Dib, dib, dib." You know. And he looked at me levelly for quite a while, and then he said, "I want a dibber by Friday." So what? Precisely, I know what a dibber is, of course. Precisely what did you want it for on Friday? He said, "Well, for putting seeds in and bulbs." I said, "Ah, right. Friday you shall have it." Rushed to the dictionary. Do you know what a dibber is? A dibber is a fishing rod which is used when you use the bait on the surface. What on earth does he want a fishing rod? Which is clearly the simplest form of fishing rod there is. It's just a bamboo, long so I got a long bamboo thing. And I thought, if he wants it for putting seeds in, presumably he'll stick it in the ground and then have all his potato and tomato seeds handy. So I got a lot of little bags and nailed them round the bamboo pole. Now, bulbs, I couldn't think what he wanted to put bulbs in. And I thought there's a 100-watt bulb in the greenhouse, and there are two 60-watt bulbs in the shed. So he clearly wants spares. So I nailed a slice of wood across the bottom of the bamboo things and screwed some old bayonet-fitting sockets there so that he could put his bulbs there. It looked lovely when I'd finished. I painted it all silver. It looked like a combination between a maypole and a pogo stick. And I'm going to give it to Fred tomorrow and say, "You asked for a dibber, Fred? There's your dibber." And I do hope. You see, he'll be so sort of happy and talkative if it's a success. If not, well, he'll be like that character in the Thomas Hardy novel, terse if the dibber fails.
According to your applause, ladies and gentlemen, Frank wins the story this week, and he and Dilys are the overall winners. And so now it's goodbye from Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden.
In My Word, the chairman was John Julius Norwich. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced by Tony Schrein. We present My Word. A panel game devised by Tony Schrein and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is John Julius Norwich.
Thank you. Our teams for this week are Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir and Denis Norden. And so we start off with a round of verbal vagaries, freaks and oddities of the weird and wonderful English language. Frank, to whom would the following words prove unrewarding? Month, silver, spirit, chimney.
Silver is a bit of a giveaway, is it not? I remember that somebody once said that it was usually held that there was no rhyme to the word orange until some bright spark said, if you're short of oranges, go today to Goranges. and that was taken out. And I think these are reckoned to be not capable of being rhymed.
I seem to remember a line that ended fat leg or slim knee, which ended rather neatly with chimney. But
I'm sure
well, anyway,
all these have been broken.
I cannot withhold 2 marks.
They're not welcome to a poet.
They're not welcome to a poet. They're not. Antonia, what is remarkable about the following statement? The United States of America attaineth its cause, freedom.
Attaineth its cause, freedom. That has a very suspect sound to me, because I once worked out an anagram of my own name, which came out as a starry fan, as it were, of Denis Norden and Frank Muir. And that's got that same odd ring. Is it an anagram?
The United States of America is an anagram of attaineth its cause, freedom. Well done.
T.S. Eliot, the anagram of his name is toilets.
Dilys.
Useful.
Dilys, dear. Are we not drawn onward, we few, drawn onward to new era? What's odd about that?
I can't think why we are.
Can you think of anything odd about the sentence?
Should it be upward?
No.
Shouldn't be upward.
Anybody
No.
else?
No.
Is it a palindrome?
No, I
Is
do.
it?
Well done, Dennis. A palindrome is
ERA,
precisely what it is. It reads exactly the same backwards and forwards.
Ah.
Dennis, what is retrogressive about the word uncomplimentary?
Well, I don't do many crosswords, but whenever you say retrogressive, it means backwards. Something's got to happen to uncomplimentary backwards. The vowels, Antonia's got it, yes. It's, actually I knew another word that had the vowels backwards. Unoriental. That's the example that I knew, but this is a better one, isn't it? Because unoriental isn't a very common word.
It's not constantly on one's lips.
No, whereas uncomplimentary.
No. Uncomplimentary is. You're
Meow.
quite right. Anyway, it is one of the 2 words, we think, in the English language which contains all the vowels which are listed in the reverse order. In other words, it begins with a U and ends with an A. Well done.
I had a palindrome hat once. It's called a deer stalker. And you can sort of walk either way. I'm sorry, just a comment.
Before we go into round 2, Frank and Dennis, here are the quotations that you were given for the last round. Frank, your quotation is, "It's a long way to Tipperary." Dennis, "You can't have your cake and eat it too." And now, a round of origins and derivations. What I want to know is, what was the origin of the following word or phrase, or, alternatively, from what did it derive? Frank, to be in cahoots with.
I think it must be Latin. Cohorts. Cahoots. Which means a small group of the army. It also means an enclosed space. Court. Doesn't it?
Yes, I think I'll give you... I'm not sure about the enclosed space court, but it's certainly cohort. Seems to be right.
I've lived my life thinking those 2 things.
You did.
And if you're going to destroy them,
far be it
I'll have
from
to
me,
reconstruct
Frank, to knock the bottom out of your world. No, certainly not. It derives almost certainly from the Latin, and through the Latin, the French word cohort. But also, there is a secondary suggestion made by certain American dictionaries that it might also come from the French word cahute, which means a cabin. 2 well-deserved marks. Well done. Antonia, what is the origin of the word swashbuckling?
Well, it's a lovely word. I can't even think what kind of language it would come from. French, swashbuckling.
Well, buckling is all right. It's the swash
Yes.
that gets into trouble. I mean, it's a chap who buckles.
Buckling's a fish too, in the wash.
I feel. Oh yes, swash is some form of contraction.
No, I don't think you quite got it. It's two words, swash and buckling. Surprise, surprise. Swash means the arrogant and provocative tapping of your sword, like sort of slapping it on your thigh and generally being rather aggressive about it. And your buckler is your shield.
Oh, I knew that.
And people, of course, far beyond me to suggest you didn't. And therefore, when you tapped your sword against your shield, sort of slapping it, saying, come on, to your antagonists, we're ready, that was swashbuckling. You swashed your buckler. And swashbuckling was the word which emerged.
And nothing to do with drunkenness?
I'm afraid nothing to do with drunkenness at all. Sorry, I don't think I can give you any marks for that.
Then I'll give up swashbuckling.
Give up swashbuckling for good.
The palindrome is to buckle your swash. It'd be very painful because...
Torture. Dilys. At one fell swoop. Origin, please.
Shakespeare.
Right. Continue. One mark for Shakespeare.
It's Macbeth.
Macbeth is exactly what it is. Can you give us the actual line?
No, something about my chicks.
Well, very nearly, yes.
Yes, nearly chicks, yes.
Nearly
yes.
chicks. What? All my pretty chickens and their dam at one fell swoop. Anyway, well done. You've got Shakespeare, you've got Macbeth, 2 marks. Denis. Barmy. Derivation.
Ah, I thought you were passing the pin.
B-A-R, not B-A-L, of course.
B-A-R?
B-A-R-M-Y.
Barmy. Is it somebody's name, a diminutive of somebody's name? Who?
No, I'm afraid it's not. It comes actually
I
from
know this.
Do you know it?
This.
I know this.
Tell us.
Yeah, let it.
It's something to do with the process of making beer.
You're perfectly right. Dear.
And there's a kind of froth left, which is called the balm. And balmy, because it gave off fumes, has meant the word balmy has meant behaving as though overcome by fumes.
I think I have no choice but to give you a bonus mark.
At last!
He does so like to be appreciated. Now,
you remember the old song, Ginger, you're overcome by fumes?
Now, a round of literary law entitled What Happened Next. What I would like is for you to tell me the sequence of events that followed upon this incident and the names of the people who were involved in it. Frank. A gentleman, thinking of employing a servant, asks his landlady whether she thinks 2 people can live for the price of 1.
Is it Dickens?
It is.
And is it Mr. Pickwick seeking to employ Sam Weller, who...
You're half right. It's Mr. Pickwick, but it's not Sam Weller.
Oh. Well, he's thinking to employ a servant, then goes into one of the earliest examples of misunderstandings in situation comedy, where he asks... Mrs. Bardell, isn't his landlady?
Right.
And he asks her whether it's right to he's thinking of having a servant and whether he's worrying financially, whether 2 can live as cheaply as 1. And she thinks he's proposing, and there ensues the famous breach of promise case.
Quite right. It's Bardell versus Pickwick. Well done. 2 marks. Antonia, do you remember a heartrending story in which an impoverished young wife sells her beautiful long hair in order to buy a Christmas present for her husband in the shape of a fob for his gold watch, and he simultaneously sells his gold watch in order to buy her a set of beautiful combs for her hair?
Yes, I remember it perfectly. Never has it been told more effectively or more briefly. But you're going to ask me who wrote it?
That's what I have. In fact, I have.
A little prompting from my right. Oh, Henry, I'm honest enough to say, oh, Henry's the answer. I was going to say Maupassant. But
well,
I'm saying O. Henry.
I'm glad you're saying O. Henry, because O. Henry is the right answer.
Isn't it the gift of the Magi?
The gift of the Magi is exactly what it is. 2 well-deserved marks. Well done.
It must be one of the most perfect small plots.
Yes.
Even in considering Maupassant.
And the point is, it isn't depressing right till the end. It's only that last sentence which suddenly throws a whole different light on it.
And then not depressing.
Dilys, a son, while having a violent argument with his mother, thinks he hears his uncle's voice coming from behind a curtain in her apartment. What happens next?
He kills the owner of the voice. He stabs it. It's Polonius behind the curtain. It's Hamlet talking to Gertrude.
Perfectly right. 2 marks. Well done. Denis, you hide yourself behind an arcade in a country church, and you see a rather plain young governess standing at the altar, about to be married to her employer. What happens next?
Well, the only governess I can think of is the same one that Antonia was thinking of, which is Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre. Yes, and she's about to be married to Mr. Rochester, and they suddenly discover, it's revealed at the altar, that he has this wife already.
How is it revealed?
Got locked up.
How is it revealed?
At the altar.
That's it. Somebody jumps up and interrupts the service.
Yes, and Antonia has identified the man. She can name names.
She can name him.
Yeah.
I name him as Mason on account of the fact his sister was called Bertha Mason.
That
Mason?
seems to be a very good reason for naming him as Mason.
He wasn't called Bertha, but...
That man is already married.
Well done. 2 marks. 2 marks again.
I thought it was one where the fisherman comes in and goes...
Frank, what single suffix can be added to all the following words? Drag, ball, cart, and buff.
Cart. Cart.
And buff.
Buff. B-U-W-F.
B-U-W-F. A single suffix can be added to all the following those words to make another word.
E-R. Dragger, baller, somebody who throws the ball.
Won't do.
Can we have one
Other
mark?
side, any chance? Any hopes? No, you're all baffled. The answer is oon, O-O-N. Dragoon, balloon, cartoon, and buffoon.
Lady in the front row. got that.
Antonia, here's your chance.
Is it suffixes again?
Its suffix is exactly the same. What suffix can be added?
At the end, aren't they?
Suffix unto the day is the evil thereof.
What suffix can be added to the following words to make 4 other words? Cross, like, clock, and other.
Wise?
Wise is right.
That's a very brilliant...
With only the slightest help from your friends, wise is right, and you get 2 marks. Crosswise, likewise, clockwise, and otherwise. Dilys. Flag, fellow, hard, and lady.
Ship.
Ship, yes.
Ship.
Flag, ship, fellowship, hardship, and ladyship. 2 marks. Denis. Post, plum, pill, and stow.
Pill and stow. I've got a brilliant group working in the front row. Well, you can add, actually, the Americans can add the word wise to anything. You would say, post-wise, we were a bit late this morning. Plum-wise, that jam is lacking. Pill-wise, I've managed to go to sleep without. Now I'm in trouble. Stow. All right, let me rephrase that. Post. Age.
Age. Postage, plumage, pillage, stowage. Well done. And so it's to the last round that we come, and to Frank and Denis's quotations. Frank, your quotation, you remember, is, "It's a long way to Tipperary."
Father Ronald Knox once described a baby as a loud noise at one end and no sense of responsibility at the other. He was careful not to state which end was which. This is untrue. This is a foul calumny on not babies, but certainly babies and infants, as was brought home to me quite recently in Corsica, where I was on holiday, on my summer holiday. And I was looking after an infant whose name was Damien. And Damien was, I suppose, about 2.5. He looked about 40, but he was about 2.5 to 3. And his parents and my wife had gone out visiting or something, and I'd volunteered to look after Damien for the afternoon and early evening because I had some work to do. We have a medieval slum in Corsica in the village of Monticello, which is in the hills above Ile-Rousse. And so off they went, and I put Damien to bed for his resty, and I started about my work, which was replacing a gas tank. And then I went up to see how Damien was getting on, and it was about an hour and a half later, and he was woken up and was reading a Patrick White novel or something, a bright lad, and he presented me with his potty. So I said, well, don't worry, Damien, you stay here, I'll pop downstairs and pour it down a drain. So he said, you won't, anxiously, poor little lad, you won't be long, will you? And I said, no, I'll just be a couple of minutes. And I thought, now I can't wander around the square with a pale blue plastic potty. They think I'm eccentric enough anyway. Luckily I had a straw hat, a boater, which I'd taken out there for extreme weather. And I lined that with a pedal bin liner, plastic, and poured the potty in. And it still wasn't totally disguised, it seemed to me. And my wife had a whole bowl of maki, of myrtle flowers and stuff. So I sawed those off and put those in the fluid, and that was sort of disguised it and looked quite pretty. So I went out in the square, holding this bowler hat, this boater at arm's length, rather like one of the male chorus of Florodora. So I think, tell me, pretty maiden, holding my boater and looking anxiously for a drain. Well, there aren't any drains in hill villages in Corsica because the village is situated on granite. They can't dig them. The rainwater just runs away. What to do? And eventually I got it's a terrible thing. I got mixed up with a wedding that was processing the way they do to Central. They all carried flowers and they thought I was one of them. And I had to go with my little boater all the way to Santa Reparata, but luckily they all peeled off and went to the cafe. So I passed through Santa Reparata, and there, round a bend with nobody watching me, was a parapet, and below the Santa Reparata rubbish dump. So I tipped the contents over, plus the hat, because I thought I would probably not wear that again, and trailed back home. Well, 2.5 hours later, I got back, and there was Damien looking very fearful, the infant, and he said, it's been so long, you said you'd just been 2 minutes. And I said, well, I'm very sorry, but circumstances intervened, and I had to go all the way to Santa Reparata, which was 5 miles there and nearly 5 miles back. And he, with that wisdom and truth of youth, just placed a hand sort of comfortingly around me and said, it's a long way to Tipperwee.
Denis, your turn. Let's see how you get on with you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, for hypochondriacs everywhere, the message I bring today is both good news and bad news. Let me start with the good news. While I was poring over a new home doctor book recently, I couldn't help noticing that some of the illnesses that it offered were by their very nature so completely irrelevant to the world we live in today, they could bring no pleasure at all to a really fervent hypochondriac. I mean, such infirmities as housemaid's knee or ostler's elbow, while they may be quite satisfactorily debilitating in themselves, no one could really hail them as ailments for the 80s. In fact, to find examples, you need do no more than take a walk down any modern suburban high street. In the very first newsagents, for instance, you can contract a hitherto unknown respiratory condition that one might term paperback apoplexy. This is an abrupt and distressing stopping of the breath due to catching your tie in a revolving book rack. Continuing down the high street and disregarding such self-inflicted traumas as GPO hernia, that's a rather humiliating muscular contraction suffered by any tall person trying to bend down inside a phone box. You'll find the place where there's a complete pathology of 1980s illnesses waiting for you, and that is the supermarket. Now, up at the far end of the supermarket, you can become stricken with a condition that was quite unavailable to our ancestors: abdominal frostbite. That's a stomach disorder brought on by leaning for too long over the frozen food can. Then, as you make your way round the supermarket, no one is immune to a sudden attack of shopping cart spasm. That's a complete spinal seize-up brought about by trying to push one that's got a wonky wheel. And neither can anyone really protect himself from being laid low by baked beans landslide. That's the one where they have to dig you out from underneath 3,000 tins marked 2p off. But none of these, however, are among the most painful of the new maladies that scientific progress has brought our way, a disorder called pneumonia of the armpit. You get it by using unexpectedly powerful aerosol deodorant. And for something even more searing in the way of agony, it's worth bearing in mind that increasingly common health hazard of the modern kitchen: singed eyeball. You get that from peering down an electric toaster to see why nothing's popped up. Of course, opinions may differ as to what is the most exotic of these latter-day maladies. Some of you might nominate heavy mob migraine. That's an indisposition peculiar to bank robbers who put stockings one size too small over their feet. But I think quite a lot of you might favour that purely summertime debility, fried knees. That's a condition contracted by kneeling down in tennis shorts on the seat of a sports car that's been left parked in the sun. So the good news is that there's now a whole spectrum of new and up-to-date illnesses for hypochondria fans to take note of and enjoy. The bad news, however, is that, as always, medical science has found a cure for every one of them. In other words, the overall hypochondriac picture remains the same. Whatever you decide to let yourself come down with, the moment you go to a doctor with it, you run still the dreadful risk of being cured. Or to put that classic hypochondriac dilemma in the form of a proverb: you can't have your ache and treat it too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I see from the score sheet that Dilys and Frank are the winners on this week's contest. And so now it's goodbye from Dilys Powell, Antonia Fraser, Frank Muir, and Denis Norden.
In my word, the chairman was John Julius Norwich. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced by Tony Schrein.